All right, look at this headline right here. Woman, 84, is cured of terminal lung cancer, and shocked doctors have fascinating theory. Okay, talk about that. How about this one right here? Police detective. 50% of sudden infant deaths happen within 48 hours of vaccination, but no one's allowed to say it. And infection by injection. 1875 postcard reveals smallpox vaccines caused smallpox. This is the actual postcard with some writing on the backside. So I guess this is from, like you said, 1800s. We're going to talk about that and more with Dr. Lana. We do our Tuesday health segment with Dr. Lana. She joins us. Dr. Lana, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hello. It is always a pleasure, Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. I sent this one to you because this one was fascinating. Woman, 84, is, quote, cured, end quote, of terminal lung cancer. And shocked doctors have fascinating theory. A Utah grandmother has just 6 months to live. She's been given 6 months to live. She was diagnosed with an aggressive lung cancer and has confounded doctors by seemingly beating the disease. 84 years old, diagnosed with small cell lung cancer in 2019. Medics told her the rare case had spread to her brain, and her family braced themselves to say their goodbyes. However, last week she defied all expectations to receive her 100th immunotherapy dose. Now that, Dr. Lana, is where I got interested. Immunotherapy. I was waiting for them to say, chemotherapy or radiation or something, and I saw immunotherapy. Wait a minute. She was doing something to boost her immune system. Sounds like what we talk about with Dr. Lana all the time. I asked you to read over it and give us your thoughts. Will you do that, please?
Absolutely. And, I studied this in school. I was blessed to study with a couple of cancer specialists, and one of them traveled all over the world for 35 years to allopathic medical hospitals as well as natural alternative care centers. And it always came back to supporting the immune system. And Brandon, immunotherapy coupled with a few other protocols has been used for years. And when you boost your own immune system and you go to doctors that do immunotherapy, and years ago there were vaccines around that helped, that those were coupled with immunotherapy. There's some other treatments that are coupled with immunotherapy, that in a very specific dietary protocol, the right water, and of course, prayer, spiritual, getting out in the sun. You hit that disease with many different things, but immunotherapy is absolutely, it's been used for many, many years. It's suppressed, if you will, no pun intended, in the United States. We don't talk about it.
So did she try chemo or radiation or not? Did she do any of that?
She went to, she had her 100th treatment, and there is no more. She has small lung cell cancer, which is really frankly, as you can see in the article, a death sentence. And they gave her, and I do not like, no one's God. I don't like when someone says you have X number of weeks or months to live. Nobody knows that but God. So they did tell this woman 6 months to live, and that was in 2018, 2019. She's still alive. They did find some small cancer tumor cells in her brain, but she is out and about and living a normal life in her mid-80s, enjoying her grandchildren and her life. And she just kept to it. She was very adamant about these immunotherapy treatments are helping me, and every few weeks, and she just continued to get them. And I teach my patients this all the time. I do crucial care consultations, and I'm like, look, I'm the doctor, you're the boss. They're the doctors, you're the boss. And if your doctors don't feel that way, go find new doctors, because you are the boss of your body and your health. And this beautiful Korean lady sounded like she was the boss. And she said, I'm going to continue these immunotherapy treatments. I can tell they're helping me. And look at her now.
So
She's doing quite well.
Do you think she had, do we know from the article if she ever even tried chemo or radiation?
I didn't see it in there.
I didn't see it in here
I
either.
did not see any of that. She was set on those immunotherapy treatments, and they'll take your blood, they'll take your cells, and it's really giving your own body a boost. And it's really what God does. Like, God builds our body to regroup, to heal itself, to go back into homeostasis. The body's always fighting to go back into balance. And that immunotherapy helps the body do that. So she was a fighter and sounds like very adamant, that she had those treatments.
Let's go to the next article. Police detective. 50% of sudden infant deaths happen within 48 hours of vaccination, but no one's allowed to say it. That's what he said in an interview with Steve Kirsch, a former police detective, claimed that about half of the sudden infant deaths cases she investigated. This is an interview with Steve Kirsch. Steve is someone I interview all the time, and he interviewed a former police detective. She investigated, showed the child had received a vaccination in the previous 48 hours. But coroners never mentioned vaccines on the death certificates, and doctors have been trained to gaslight parents. Yeah. Yep, they sure have, because my wife and I experienced this with our first child. The doctor gaslit us like we were crazy when we were questioning getting all these shots. So these guys are either dumb, complicit, and evil, or greedy, or all the above. I don't know. But when this is back, 1996, 97, and we're saying we're concerned about, the side effects of these shots. We're reading. Parents, we didn't have a lot then. Today, parents have a lot of resources and a lot of advocates. We were kind of sailing on our own back then. You remember those days, right, Dr. Lana?
Absolutely.
What do you make of what this detective is saying? 50% of these infant, SIDS death is within 48 hours of the vaccine.
Well, I think that correlates to the parents that talk to you after their son or their daughter was vaccinated, maybe when they're 6 months old or 18 months old. And if they don't, thank goodness, if they don't pass away from SIDS, the mother is bringing the child back into the doctor's office saying, my son or my daughter won't look at us anymore.
Right.
They won't babble anymore. They won't talk. They're screaming, they're crying because the child now has autism or Asperger's, or they're on the spectrum now because there is too much, there's just an extraordinarily large amount of toxic chemicals and a toxic load going into that baby's body, and worse, crossing the baby's blood-brain barrier. So the SIDS is correlating over to the autism story. And there's many doctors that will talk about this, pediatricians, medical doctors, research scientists. I don't know her, but Dr. Sherry Tenpenny in Ohio suffered greatly because she was speaking about this.
Yep.
Dr. Larry Palevsky is an amazing pediatrician, and he will not vaccinate anymore in his practice. And he's not vaccinated for many, many years. And he's a board certified pediatrician, and he says if the patients, in other words, the parents of the patients want to have their child vaccinated, they have to go to another pediatrician. He won't do it. So there's a lot of doctors that are talking about this now, but this doesn't surprise me at all because
God bless them, because I read where a pediatrician's office can lose $1 million a year in revenue by not doing the vaccines of children.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, we actually have a relative that I give them so much credit, and I would never ever mention names. Not my last name actually, but they were a board certified pediatrician, medical doctor, and after they saw what was going on, especially post COVID, they gave up their practice. They're in just another field. They are not practicing medicine. Can you imagine all those years, all that expense? You have a family. Their spouse is also a doctor, but they are not a pediatrician anymore. They're like, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. The science is there. It doesn't have anything to do with politics or anything else. This is about intelligence and having some wherewithal and energy to go look at the science. It's right there in front of us. It's just extraordinary. I was trained by an incredible doctor around vaccines, and it's all there. The science is there. People are having fights at the holiday dinner table. Talk about gaslighting, saying half the family's crazy because they don't want any kind of vaccinations or don't want to vaccinate their babies, and the other half of the holiday dinner table is saying we would vaccinate everybody and everything, 24/7, right? But the science, just go back to the science. Nobody has to argue. The proof is there. It's just another weapon, and we all have to be smart, and we have to be our own health advocates, and we have to be, Dr. Mom and Dr. Dad for our own families, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really sad how my wife and I were talking the other day about someone that's a medical doctor and had to spend a lot of money and time getting their degree. And we're hearing that more and more of them are not happy in their work. They want out. They want to quit. They're sick of it. And I said to my wife, I know this, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but I said, what's so ironic to me is the number of guys that got their medical degree, their law degree, and they want to do what I do. I cannot tell you the number of attorneys and medical doctors that are friends of mine that want to do what I do. And I didn't have to go get some big fancy degree and PhD to do this, right? It's really either something you can go to training, go to school, go to training, or you can be self-taught. And of course, in the area of worldview, there really wasn't a lot you could do when I was coming out of high school. Nobody was really talking about too much related to worldview. It was a little bit, but you couldn't go get a degree. But of course, now you can go do apologetics and worldview and whatnot. But I said to my wife, it's really ironic how many of these guys that go get these big degrees, spend years, lots of money, and at the end of the day, they want to do what I do. And I think that's a compliment. But number two, I think it's sadly a commentary on where these other fields are going. And what's great about my field is I can talk about what I want to talk about, right? I'm not controlled by some network that tells me what I can and cannot talk about. If I want to interview Dr. Lana and talk about vaccines or being infected with like our next topic, injection by infection, I can do that. And I think it comes down to one key word: freedom. Freedom. And I don't think these attorneys, these doctors, these other accountants, some of them are accountants who have these degrees, they don't feel the freedom. They are in a corporation that's saying, you're going to bill X number of hours a month, or you're never going to be a partner. And you're like, how is that humanly possible unless I have no life? You got it. Or you're padding your hours, And I warned about it in one of my books, a law professor who warned his students, when you get your law degree, many of you will go into the field and you will become people that you never thought you would become. And you will become very dishonest, and you'll pad your billing because that's what it takes to rise as a partner, to make the money you want. So you either work that many hours and have no life, or you pad your hours. And that's how it goes when you jump into the corporate world a lot of times, not every time. But then you got the doctors who are saying, I don't want to follow this protocol. The science says no. But the pediatrician office, the big insurance company that owns that firm is saying, or that pediatrician's office saying, we make $1 million a year giving these shots. Do you want to keep your job? So I think the key word comes back to freedom. What say you?
Absolutely. And, quickly, I did a keynote speech. This was at a university years ago. And the doctor that spoke after me was a medical doctor. And he's like, oh my gosh, I so related to your talk. And, we learn a tiny bit of that in medical school. And long story short, he said, would you like to, he says, gosh, I'd like to, maybe you could pick your brain and this and that. And you want to go to breakfast the next day. And we did. And he told me a story with tears in his eyes. He was fired from a hospital. Actually, it wasn't too long before this talk that we did. And he moved his family out west, and he wanted to teach diet and lifestyle intervention, what I teach and what I went to school for many years. And they told him absolutely not at this hospital. He was teaching cancer patients deep breathing exercises. He wanted to bring in certified yoga instructors to just teach stretching. And he wanted to rearrange the whole cafeteria for a more whole food dietary protocol for the hospital. And they fired him. And he said, with tears in his eyes, he said, Lana, he said, I realized after my residency and I started practice, he said, the tools that we are given in medical school basically are used to slowly kill our patients. And I will never forget his words, not mine. And he had tears in his eyes. And he said, I actually had a nervous breakdown the year before, because it just hits you once you get into practice. Because you see patient after patient, their only toolbox is their pharmaceutical pad, and they take an oath just like I did to do no harm. But the pharmaceutical pad and the surgery is a tool. Drugs are a tool, chemo is a tool, radiation is a tool, and that's what medical school is. And there's a time and a place that you need those doctors, but you better know how to navigate that system, the questions to ask, how to interview those doctors. I mean, that's what I teach my patients. I literally teach them how to interview doctors and how to navigate the medical system, because you're going to have to do it. Hopefully not for yourself, because you're all awake and wise and watching Brandon, but you're going to have to navigate the system probably for a loved one that maybe doesn't know what you do.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's go to this last one. Infection by injection. 1875 postcard reveals smallpox vaccines caused smallpox. I'm not shocked by this. This is exactly what Dr. Judy Mikovich told me in 2020 when I started interviewing her. Look at this old postcard. I guess it's provided by the Society for Suppressing Compulsory Vaccination. And you can see the back of the card. And the bullet points, just a couple. Vaccination offers no protection against smallpox. In Birmingham last year, nearly 600 persons, mostly vaccinated, died of smallpox. Although the public vaccinator received in 1873 in fees and awards for a successful vaccination, and gives the amount. Newmarket, another over-vaccinated community, has lately been visited with an epidemic of smallpox. 2, it so lowers the vitality that they are rendered more liable to other diseases. Let's stop right there. Is another word for vitality your immune system? Your immune system is so lowered. Is that another word?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I studied with an incredible doctor, and they taught at a really, really large university. And people don't think about way, way back, decades and decades ago, people started to get healthier, not because of vaccines. Well, the proof is right there, what you just read. But think about it, everyone. There was sanitation. People started washing their hands with hot water and soap. There were toilets and plumbing and agriculture, and people started to take more showers and more baths than what hot water and soap will do for you, and good plumbing. And all of that came into play. And so people were living longer. They weren't getting sick. Children were not getting sick. It wasn't because they were riddled with these vaccines that was supposed to saving them. Sanitation came into play, and agriculture and plumbing and all of that. And people were not getting diseases because they were cleaner. And it's just that's a very, very simple fact that people don't think about, but they put all the gold into, these vaccines just saved the children and saved everybody. No, they didn't. They made it much, much worse. And parents lost children because of these chemical-laden injections.
They say great risk is incurred of contaminating their blood with loathsome and incurable maladies. This is amazing. Back in 1875.
I will look it up. And the sun, I will look this up and verify it next time because I don't want to say anything unless it's fact and I absolutely know what I'm talking about. But I know that, and I'll find the boy's name, and actually the man that started giving these injections, I do believe his son, sadly, but his son died of smallpox, died of the vaccine. But I'll look that up for next time. But I remember learning that in school, but I want to verify the facts. It was awful.
All
actually
right,
killed his own son.
Before we run, let's talk about some ways to boost the immune system, as we always do here. I, of course,
Absolutely.
every day I take my 3, my Bella Grace, my Numi, and my Gatatana, which Melissa will bring me. I take those, okay, these 3 every day. And not only do I take it, but I give half a scoop to Dolly. Can we go to the Dolly cam? Because look at her. Does that look like a healthy dog to you, Dr. Lana?
She's beautiful. She's lean, has a beautiful coat. And you know what? She's peaceful. I mean, she's in a deep sleep, and you're out there saving the world, Brandon, and Dolly's in a deep sleep. So what a beautiful animal. We have saved a lot of animals with the God's perfect food, as I say, and glutathione. It is the trifecta. And I really mean that. If you have to think about it, if you have to go to a desert island, you want good, clean, pure water. And here you go. And it's easy to think about it. This is not about a product. It's about, we cannot breathe without glutathione. You can't breathe without glutathione. And this is like air in a bottle, oxygen in a bottle. And nutshell here, you started losing glutathione when you were about 20 years old. So it's not if you need to swish, you do. We all do.
Yep.
And the Gatatana is getting God's pure microscopic food in through your cell membranes to fuel your mitochondria so you can make ATP, energy, and so your cells can function. There's protein in here, omega-3s, omega-6s, amino acids, trace minerals. Do you know most of the symptoms many people are suffering from? Low trace minerals. It's the Gatatana, 1 to 2 scoops a day. Take it 10 minutes before breakfast or 10 minutes before lunch because you have an empty stomach and it's getting into your cells quickly. It's 90 billion plant cells in one tiny scoop. I would give this to every family member every single day. And you know the story. I got my mom's personality back. I helped her initially by getting glutathione in her system. She does the swish 3 times a day. And she takes a scoop of Gatatana every single day. And if you know anyone that has behavior issues, or they're a little angry, or people that are maybe aging, or maybe adolescents even, because this is pure microscopic food. When you get nutrition in the cells, it can help calm behavior. There's been amazing stories. Remember, hundreds of thousands of people have taken this in Canada for 12 years now. It's my honor, Brandon and Melissa's honor, David Hunter's honor, to get the Gatatana into the United States. They brought it here. We started in October of 2024. So we want all of you and your families to be able to take a scoop of God's pure nutrition here every day. But you're low in trace minerals, most of you that have any kind of symptoms, and this is getting your trace minerals back in your all of your cells from head to toe. And then the Bella Grace, last thing I'll say is I'm a big fan of this because it's real cat's claw that is shaved off the bark in the Amazon rainforest. And that is an extraordinarily safe and effective anti-inflammatory. The other reason I love this, I know collagen and tight skin. Heaven knows I want that too. But another reason I love the Bella Grace is the astaxanthin crosses the blood-brain barrier and gets antioxidants into your brain. I kid you not, I would not go anywhere without making sure the glutathione, the Gatatana, and our wellness elixir.
And this brings us back around where we started, which was boosting our immune system. That lady doing that immunotherapy, boosting her immune system to, and now instead of dying of cancer, she seems to be living a great active life, and she boosted her immune system to fight those cells. And of course, we boost our immune system to take on the free radicals with that antioxidants across the brain-blood barrier and all of this. So this is, again, back to food as medicine and boosting your immune system to do what God meant it to do, right?
Absolutely. And the gadotana and glutathione can be for your pets. I mean, it's a family affair, that's for sure.
Yep, it is. It's a family affair. I don't know why she sleeps off the bed like that, but she loves to do it. So who can complain with it, right? All right, Dr. Lana, as always, hey, we're looking forward to having you with us at our fall conference, October 3rd and 4th here in the Mid-South.
It will be wonderful.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll have
Can't
a
wait.
lot of victories to talk about with RFK Jr. and getting America healthy again and getting the 10,000 poisons and toxins out of our food supply and so much more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Lana. Appreciate you.
Bless.
Dr. Lana checking in tonight, and make sure you check out all of our sponsors on our sponsor page, because that's where you're going to find all of our great products, the Gatatana, the Numi, the Bella Grace, all of it and more at worldviewtube.com/sponsors.